How was it?
And we are back with day 27 of Survivor 46 and 46. Tyson just won Blood versus Water in his third time playing. In my comfort season, Blood, it's not my favorite or anything like that, but it is a season that I can just put on at any point and feel good at the end of the day. And I think, and we're going to talk about it, I think because Jeff really leans in to the blood aspect of the season, which does kind of become annoying throughout the season, but we'll talk about it. Today we're once again joined by host of Survivor New York, Chris. Chris, last time we had you on, we did One World, and you gave us Colton's point of view on a lot of stuff that happened out there. And I probably would ask you about that today too. But first off, watching this the first time for you, what did you think about the theme? Did you think that it was like, did you think that there's any way they could screw up the theme, or did you think, oh, this is perfect?
First, thank you for having me again. It's been so much fun doing these with you.
Thank you.
I remember seeing the end of the Caramel finale and seeing the preview of the blood dropping in the water and being so excited for this and thinking there is no way they can mess this up as long as they get the cult classic type of survivor players and their loved ones. This is going to be great, and I think they did a pretty good job for the most part. And I don't think this season disappointed many people. There was a I talked last time about how Survivor 21 to 24 really was like a big shit show, and then starting with 25, maybe till like 29, it kind of got really really good again.
Yeah,
So I
and
think like there's no way they could have messed it up.
Blood versus Water is the official, the beginning of the next era of the show. They've come out of the dark ages, and the way they bring us back, even though Caramoan was also a returnee season or a half returnee season, this is the better of the two back-to-back returnee seasons. And I think because the gameplay in this season, and that's something that I would say goes all the way back to even One World, where One World through Caramoan, it's very fluid. Now, there's still people at the top that are making things happen, but like there's fluid things that are happening. It's not just picking groups off one by one. And I will say that in Blood versus Water, the first few merge boots, it does kind of go like that. They do just pick off Aris and Vetus, Tina, and then they start trying to cannibalize each other. They instead of going after Katie. And I do appreciate that because, yes, optics wise, okay, we know exactly what's going to happen here. And then they switch it up and they start turning on each other early. And I think that led to a lot of very fun tribals in that middle part of starting with the Laura vote. Now, historically, Jeff loves to bring up the fact that Sierra voted out her mom. And historically, me and most people have said, yeah, she voted with the majority. It's not like she flipped a vote and that was a deciding vote. Having said that, there are times this season after that vote where people still look at it as a big move, and I just kind of forgot about that. Jervis sits there and says, Sierra voted out her mom, and Monica Culpepper goes, yeah, she voted with the majority. And Jervis says, do you understand how big a deal it is on this season for you to vote out a loved one, watching how everyone has interacted? And I gained a new appreciation for, I still think it's annoying as shit that it continues to get brought up, but I appreciated it more this time only because Jervis is right. In this specific season, you voting out your loved one when everyone has been so emotional about losing their loved ones in this game, that is a big deal. And I do feel like a jury might respect that if Sierra does get to the end. What were your thoughts? One, on that moment, but two, how Survivor has continued to shove it down our throats that Sierra voted out her mom.
Well, it's funny because like you said, they've really shoved it down our throats for the next two times Sierra plays. That's all Jeff talks about every time Sierra is mentioned in any sense, right? Um, it's refreshing to hear your take on it because I only hear the negative take on it, how it really didn't matter, it just was the majority. but there is something to say about somebody that is willing to write down their mother's name on the piece of paper, and showing to their alliance and to the majority that they're willing to not even put them in a situation where they receive a vote, which is such a negative, type of thing that happens in the game when you see your vote, like your name on a piece of paper and Jeff holding it. That she's willing to prove loyalty by doing that. And I think that was what the move really was. She knew that her vote didn't matter, and if it did, she probably wouldn't have voted out her mom. But in this case, it was to prove something to Jervis and to Monica and to Tyson that, hey, I'm with you guys. And that's how we see her move forward in the next episode,
Yeah.
where she does vote out Caleb with those three, and they view her as like a strong number. And then if you move on to the final six, they still wanted to work with her. She would have been in the top four with those three, and she could have won that last immunity challenge, or maybe someone else would have been voted out. You never know. So I think that vote actually set up her placement in the game to get to the top four, but other obstacles got in her way.
Yeah, I think Sierra is such an interesting character this time around, and not interesting because of the pre-show comments that she made about like not wanting to work with gay folk and all that stuff. Yeah, her actual character development on the show, because her and Katie start at the bottom of the blood tribe, the newbie tribe, and she has to work her way up because they are just picking off the women one by one on that tribe until Brad Culpepper goes home, and we'll talk about him. And then she gets swapped with all these strong guys. They win both the swap challenges leading into the merge. And then all of a sudden, she's sitting there saying, I don't want my mom coming back into the game, because if my mom comes back into the game, it's going to really screw up what I have going on. And it worked for a while, but it was always going to be inevitable that she would have to make a decision. And I think that Sierra played such a great game this season, to the point where we get our first rock draw since season 4. And yes, it took a lot of Hayden saying, hey, do you not understand what's going on here? And Jervis putting his foot in his mouth saying, yeah, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. And they cut right to Sierra's face and says, yes, you understand what's going on now. And she says, yes, we're going to rocks. Sierra often gets credited with the big moves era. Like, she's the one that started this whole thing. And I have my opinions on big moves. I think they're dumb. But I appreciate what she did this. So what were your thoughts on Sierra as a whole this season? She comes back 2 more times, but do you think that she showed enough this time that it's like, yeah, they had to bring her back?
I just want to comment on the later parts of Sierra, because the third time she played, she was voted out very early. I did not like her at all. The second time she came back, well, the first time she came back, which was Second Chances, I didn't really love it. Like, she was okay. She wasn't anything special. She was a lot more negative. I think in this Blood versus Water game, the reason why she was so incredible was partly because of her relationship with her mom. And like, I remember that very like emotional moment between the two of them on the beach. I think her coming out and playing this game for the first time after like understanding that her mom had played the game, and this like freshness, this newbie like aura that's around her made her so special and so real and so relatable to people that they wanted to see her come back. And she just kind of disappointed people in the later parts. Maybe some people disagree with me with that, because people like the Witches Coven.
I
Um,
I like the witch.
yeah,
I
I mean,
do
it's
like
a
the witch
it's a
coven.
great alliance. It's a great alliance. I
It
just
only
think
survives for like 2 episodes. It's not
yeah,
like they don't
she's
overstay
the
their
weakest
welcome.
member, though. She's the weakest member of that alliance for sure, in my opinion. But I think like I have to say she's probably top 3 favorite people to play in that season, maybe top 2. Um, I remember reading all those things that you had said about what she said. I know Laura. I remember from Samoa, like Laura was a very like devout Christian woman, like really against like democracy and gay people and
Yeah.
the left, and I was really scared. But in the season,
I
I actually
love
really
Laura. Yeah,
liked.
I
I
love
love
Laura.
Laura both times. I don't even care about that. It's
Yeah.
I connected the human natures more than what their beliefs are. That can get into a different discussion, but
Absolutely.
um, I connected so much to Sierra, and I feel like so many people can connect to her. And there's like I had a mother-daughter play my live reality game, and it was like seeing that in I've actually seen that in person. The real raw connection, the emotional uh qualities that go on. So it was great to see Sierra play with her mom and become such a big fan favorite.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that coming out of this season, for me, her, Caleb, Hayden were the best. And yes, it's no, surprise that they were three of the last four family members to survive in the game. But I really enjoyed all three of their gameplays because you have Sierra who starts from the bottom and has to work her way through. We have Caleb who during the Brad Culpepper vote just straight up says, "I'm voting Brad, and you guys can do it or you could not do it." And in that moment, it's like, yeah, Caleb is establishing himself as a great player on a season that has half basically this is basically fans favorites 3, except for it's better than fans favorites 2. And you have Hayden, who, yes, he comes from Big Brother and all that, but like he really is very perceptive of what's going on most of the time. And he is trying to get Monica to flip, and that becomes a storyline towards the end of the game. Is every single person's like, we got to get Monica to flip because these two aren't flipping on each other. We've got to get Monica to flip, and I think it starts with Hayden trying to convince Monica and Sierra, like, hey, do you understand what's going on here? Hayden obviously does way better than Beast Mode Cowboy. I didn't know about Hayden. I didn't watch Big Brother at this point. I really still don't, but I didn't know much about Hayden going into this. Kat, I had just seen in One World, didn't think we needed her back, but like we got her back, and I feel like Hayden, among all these large personalities this season, really stood out. So what were your thoughts on Hayden and Caleb? We can talk about both of them, but you can go ahead.
So Hayden is, it's a touchy subject just because did watch his season of Big Brother and I did not really care for him whatsoever at all. He was not like a big character. He won the game because he was in a very dominant alliance. So I said, well, if Hayden's going to play Big Brother that way, he's going to try and play Survivor that way. He's going to pick a very dominant core group of guys, which it was on Big Brother, and get to the end with them. And I felt like that's what he kind of did in the beginning of the game is get this core group of guys and want to work with them. But luckily, he sort of changed that a little bit um, at moving forward. But he still like found his footing with this core group until he got into the minority. I do think he played a very strong game. I think his best move was maybe convincing Sierra to do the rock jaw, unless she
Yeah,
it's controversial because maybe she did it on her own. Maybe it was partly Hayden, but I have to say, like that tribal council, Hayden put up such a good fight and such a good case that I think that that's also partly why Sierra did what she did.
I agree.
Um, Up until then, I think he had great social game, great physical game, but I always knew that because of Big Brother. Going into Caleb, so I have gotten to talk to Caleb and play online like reality games with Caleb. And I knew that before getting on Survivor, he'd only watched Survivor because of Colton. So he wasn't like this big super fan. He was just somebody that kind of got drug into Survivor because his boyfriend was on the show and loved Survivor so much and played all these online reality games every single day. And he got asked to come back. So, of course, Colton is going to ask his boyfriend to come play, which is an odd choice because I know Colton's little brother, Ethan, and I thought that made more sense to maybe bring Colton's little brother to play, but I'm assuming something happens there. Caleb comes in, he plays this sort of low key game, I think, at first, because he's probably like not sure how to do it, and then Colton quits. So it's kind of like a casual getting thrown into Survivor and just saying, you know what, I'm just going to cause chaos. And that's what he did right from the jump. in
Yeah,
that third tribal. I guess not the jump, but maybe the third tribal council, and it
because he
was
is very
going
mild
tough.
mannered up to that. Like he is just yeah, you're
Yeah,
right. He just kind of he seems like he's vibing, testing the waters, and it helps that the men on the tribe are like, hey, we've got 5 strong, and so he's already set up for a bit. And I think once yes, that third tribal where whatever it was, where he finally realizes, oh, this is how you do it, and he just pulls. I won't say like an all-time move, but like in this season is one of the biggest moves of just yeah, Brad Culpepper, I'm voting for you and you guys can join me or you could not. And Brad's just like, oh well, Caleb, I'm not going to vote for you. The tribal is when Brad gets voted out, he goes to shake Caleb's hand, and Caleb's just like, "We'll talk afterwards." And Brad's just like, "No,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just don't worry. I just want to shake your hand."
So
And
awkward.
it was so awkward. But a very underrated duo of Hayden and Caleb. You don't think about that duo, but like that duo besides Tyson and Jervis were probably the biggest duo of the season. If you don't count like loved ones with their person,
Wow.
Caleb and Hayden, second best duo of the season, and I do feel like if they can get if they can flip that game at 7, if Sierra doesn't go run her mouth at 7, we probably see the two of them sitting at the end with somebody else. Now, sad. I mean, that obviously that doesn't happen, and I don't want to go too far into fantasy what would have happened. But watching it this time, I really was like, wow, this is such a fun under the radar duo that's just kind of sitting in the background until Final 7, and all of a sudden it's like, let's do something. Um, Monica Culpepper. I feel so. This Monica Culpepper is another one in a long line of female finalists that I really feel for this time around. So starting with Lisa Welchel in Philippines, Dawn and Karamoan, and now Monica, where it's like, yes, all three of them sat next to the wrong person, which is why they all inevitably lost. But I did feel like all three of them played really well. And I think that their emotions were looked at as a hindrance by the jury, where, Lisa, always having a moment where she's like, I don't know if I can play this game. I don't know if I'm cut out for it. And then she'll do like a crazy move. And she was very like this. Dawn, just a crier, but she was playing, like she was making a lot of the moves. And Karamoan, Monica stuck to her alliance, was winning immunities. I think she won the most immunities on the season. Yeah, she wasn't the strategy in that group, but I do feel like what really aggravated a lot of people was the fact that she was very emotional and she refused to flip on Tyson and Jervis. But I did appreciate her final tribal performance. I loved. You could see that this thing had really been like she wanted to do it for Monica, and she kept saying that, and that really watching Laura and Sierra and Tina and all their faces. So yeah, I feel like they would have voted for her in a situation, and I think she only gets Vetus's vote. What were your thoughts on Monica Culpepper before we go to Brad?
Preseason, I knew that Monica was married to like a big NFL player. So I said, when I heard that there was rumblings of like potential themes in the future, from like some, Survivor spoiler website or something like that, I had an inkling that like there's no way they're not going to bring back Monica and then bring Brad Culpepper on board because it makes sense. It's great for the show. They love having athletes on this show. So when I saw her on the cast, I wasn't surprised, but I was disappointed because there are so many great characters from this era of Survivor. Even though they're not great seasons, there are great characters. We've talked about even Sabrina from her season. You know, that would have been a great person to bring in. Maybe she didn't have a loved one. I also want to bring up the fact that um, I've gotten to talk to RC. She was supposed to be on this season, but
Yep.
her father had heart issues
Mm-hmm.
and they had to drop last minute. I don't know who replaced them.
Candace, and John. That's why Candace gets voted out first.
Gotcha. So, I mean, imagine the world where RC and her dad are there instead of Candace and John. Because I didn't feel so excited to have Candace there in the first place. To be completely honest, she
I'm
was
not a
never
Candace
anything.
person, so
Yeah, she's nothing that special. I do love that she like kicked ass on the first
yeah,
four duels. Like, good on her to last that long on Survivor and never even be like in the game or go to tribal council. Like, that's kind of like iconic in its own sense. But Monica is a disappointment in coming into the game, but playing the game, she really did impress me this time around because she knew what it was like to go out pre-merge, get burned. She knew what she needed to improve on herself. And I think that what's kind of sad is you mentioned all those women getting to the final tribal council and losing the game. Each one of those women got to the end and lost because they weren't doing something that other people wanted them to do, which is to turn on their biggest allies. You know,
yes,
Lisa didn't turn on Michael Skupin. Dawn didn't turn on John
Cochran.
Cochran.
Yeah.
Yes, and then Monica didn't turn on Tyson or Jervis. And it's like, why is it their responsibility to have to turn on somebody that's being loyal to them, to be being honest to them, and
Mhm.
working hard for them? I think I hate to say it, but Survivor is very ageist and very misogynistic. We have not seen older women win this game much.
No, I would say that what the last time, the last time an older woman won this game was what, Denise?
And Denise was like 42, 43 maybe in that
Yeah,
range.
if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Denise was the oldest, the last time an older woman won this the show, because in the 30s, no, the 40s, no, yeah, it's Denise, and I do, and Denise sat there next to Lisa and Michael Skupin at that point. Um, and I won't disagree with you on that, because I do think there is an age problem just in general, where, and that's what was it, season 45, oh my gosh, what was her name, blonde woman,
Julie,
um
Julie,
yes,
she was great.
she was great, and she was a person that I felt like if she got to the end was probably going to win, depending on who she sat next to. But with Monica, the fact that she's the challenge, the fact that, yes, she's number three as far as strategy in this group, maybe number two, because Jervis had a lot of stuff. Um, but socially, the fact that every single person from six to the end, including the battle back, knew to go to her to try to flip the game. They didn't try to go to Tyson and Jervis. They wanted to go to her because they felt the best with her, and they also felt like she would be the easiest person to potentially flip. It does suck that you're expected to turn on your number one ally in order for you to win in a game, when Natalie White was able to do it, who was able to go to the end with her number one ally and win the game. So it's not like that's a you have to do type of thing. You can go to the end with someone that people might deem as playing better, whatever that means, and still win the game. I think that just at this point in the show's history, we're starting to stray into a different era where people feel like you have to turn on who everyone is telling you to turn on, because we're the jury, and if you don't listen to us, then tough cookies. And I mean, that is why Beatus doesn't vote for Tyson, because Beatus says, hey, if you keep me around one more round, I will vote for you at the end. And Tyson doesn't, and Beatus doesn't vote for him in the end. So this is definitely that era where people are like, just do this and you'll win. Um, the third placer of the season, Jervis. Jervis coming back from Borneo. He's got his pagong tattoo. It's great shit. He's still acting the same, which, I mean, I like Jervis in Borneo. And here, yes, I can understand how a lot of people would take it as being obnoxious when they win challenges. And trust me, if I was on the other side of that, I'd be pretty pissed off too. Um, I think the Coconut Bandits, at the beginning, it seemed like they were working hand in hand, and then there's just like a switch. I feel like at the merge, like right before they merge, where Tyson's like, "Yeah, we got to start putting the target on Aris. We got to start putting the target on Aris." I think that's when it becomes a Tyson show. I don't think Jervis wins a final three with Monica or Tina. I think that he wins with Sierra or Monica or Tina. Like, I think that Jervis has a very long road ahead of him if he's going to win this season, basically because of how antagonistic he was to certain folks. And I think that may have rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. What were your thoughts on Jervis this season?
Um, Going into it, I was extremely excited. The Pagong tribe in general to me is just one of the best group of people to ever play Survivor. Especially Jervis is one of my all-time like favorite players. I think he's just so funny, so likable. He's just so iconic. Like him finding out like he's got a baby boy on
Yeah.
the island. I thought
The
that was like so
cigar and the
cool.
shades and
Yeah, and like I remember him winning that like really cool challenge of just winning a little pizza. I don't know, just the old school players, the biggest personalities. Jervis is one of them. You can't not love him. So going into the season, super happy he's there. I thought, you know, his niece being there was a little bit of an odd choice. I was like, okay, all right, whatever. He's back. I'm happy that he's back. I don't really care who he's with. Um, but the big turnoff right off the bat is they win the first immunity challenge, and he's cheering and he's like throwing it in the face of the loved ones, which just doesn't make sense. Like these are everyone's loved ones over here. You shouldn't be saying like, "Ha, we got you. We won. We're the best." It's only going to turn people off, right? And then Marissa is at the redemption duel and she's saying like that threw people off and that upset people, and then he kind of like antagonized people even more on it, so it kind of turned him into a little bit of a villain.
the villain.
It turned people off a little bit, but I think that we didn't get to see the full side of Jervis. I think the editors really turned that into something and said, you know what, we're going to play off that Jervis is the bad guy this season because he started off doing things that would correlate to him being a bad guy. So let's kind of like ride the rest of the season out with him being like the villain or something. But he really wasn't like a super villain that was like
Yeah.
malicious. He was just hardcore strategist. He stuck to his guns. He was extremely loyal to Tyson, and he wouldn't give up what they were working so hard for. And he wasn't going to turn on Tyson no matter what, or Monica.
Yeah, and I will say that watching all these seasons like this, I always try to pick out who's the villain, who's the hero. And I think because Tyson is usually the villain, his first two times he was very much a villain. This time around, because they couldn't portray him as that, and he has shown, we're gonna go when we talk about Tyson, he has shown to be more emotional this time around. They needed something, they needed someone to demonize in the situation. And so I feel like that's why we get a lot of negative Monica content where she can't control her emotions, and like Monica talks too much and all this other stuff. And then with Jervis, like you said, he's doing all the stuff that they're showing him, but like we're only seeing like him antagonizing Hayden at Tribal. We're seeing, him after they win challenges pre-merge. We're seeing him, go after Brad Culpepper, and it's frustrating. But I guess I get it because it's similar to like Winners at War, where hey, we need to demonize somebody because no one's really being villainous, and so we get a whole Wendell villain story arc that kind of just comes out of left field. But we can't make Tony or anybody in his alliance look too bad. We can make Ben look like a moron, but like that's fine with me. And so I think it's the same thing with here. Like we need to counterbalance this. And I think once it starts at that very first challenge, they win. Marissa is on the chopping block. And this is where the whole Brad Culpepper pre-merge storyline begins. And I think this time around, I actually really liked Brad. And I'm like, you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing him again in Game Changers. Because he's just there's the confessional where he's doing the 4 and the 5 equals
Oh my
this.
god.
And just like, the John Cochrans of the like only women and John Cochrans won this game now, and I want strong men to be able to do it. And I've got 4 guys and a gay and all this other stuff.
Oh
It's
my
like,
gosh.
it was just like, all right, yeah, this guy is just a meathead. What do they call him? What do they call meatheads or something like?
Yeah.
Yeah. but it was fun because we don't see many guys like that get a lot of screen time at this point. And so listening to Brad and the fact that he's just continuously being demonized for really not doing anything wrong. He goes after Marissa mainly because Jervis did what he did during the challenge. He goes out. Well, the crew go after Rachel because they either Ison might flip with her or let's start eating away at these people. I didn't see any. I didn't see anything wrong with what Brad Culpepper was doing. Why did he get so much hate from ever? Like, I understand because it's blood versus water and he's voting out their people. I get it, but this was you feel bad for him this time around ish. You feel bad ish.
Well, I think Brad Culper is just a very touchy subject. I think there was like accusations of like inappropriate things with
Oh,
women.
didn't know that.
I didn't Kansas say something about that?
Well, Candace brought up the fact that in her household, the men and the women are equal, and in his household,
Okay.
Monica does whatever Brad says.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't like inappropriate in that way. It was more like he was always condescending towards women. He viewed gay guys below straight guys, and he had this idea of the game that was like just not realistic for most people, and seeing it so like abrupt and so like in our face on television what maybe just turned a lot of people off. And it kind of like reminds me of like John Rocker in like San Juan del Sur a little bit. Like that big macho guy just doesn't work out so much on Survivor. Maybe Jonathan from like 42, it kind of does, but even he kind of had that vibe
Yeah,
a little bit. So
yeah.
it's like
I'm not a Jonathan person, so
why do they all like act the same? I don't get it. I will say Brad does get better in Game Changers, but I don't like Brad on a TV format. I think if I played with Brad in a Survivor game, I feel like I would like him more maybe if I got a chance to really get to know him. I think the
I'd
editing
align
is
with
one
him.
thing. Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
align with him. He is an icon in a way because doesn't he win 5 immunity challenges
Yeah, and he
in
wears
Game
the
Changers?
potato sack during final trial, whatever it was, like the
Yeah,
little sack.
he's the last human being to win 5 individual immunity challenges in Survivor history. That's a huge feat. It has rarely been done throughout history. So he is one of the best performers in Survivor history. So I have to give him credit in that regard at least. But yeah, he's just meh
Yeah,
for me.
and every time they go after him, they always cut to Monica. And this is just more going into the whole blood versus water aspect of the season because they always want to show us the loved ones reacting to something negative happening to their counterpart. And every time they come in, it's fuck you, Brad Culpepper, and when Cam off um and they Monica, how do you feel about this? It's like, how do you think she feels, Jeff? Like, do you think that she's happy that they're attacking her husband? And so then we get like this mini. It's not really a mini storyline because it lasts forever, where everyone that gets the idol clue, with the exception of John and I think Tina, and I think Sierra gets it at one point, just throw it into the fire because they feel like it'd be better to do this than potentially one, screw with anyone on the other tribe, but two, it immediately puts a target on their backs because to John. At a certain point, you can see Jeff kind of getting annoyed that the people are just doing this. But once again, when you have half of a cast that really don't understand how the game is played, everyone just kind of falls in place, and they have to no one's going to change it up because the first time you change it up, you become a target anyway. We do have a question. What contributed more to Marissa's elimination? Marissa's comment about after Brad said he might consider throwing the challenge to protect Monica, or Jervis celebrating after the winning immunity? I think it's the second one. I
Yeah.
feel like Brad was always going to go after one of the weaker women first. I feel like Maurice's comment at the beginning, like, it's fine, but I think what Jervis did. I think that was more than anything else, because even Marisa says that when she gets to Redemption Island, Jervis, this is your fault because of how you acted during the challenge. Chris, do you agree? Disagree?
I agree, but I have to say, I remember thinking, why Marissa? She is not the weakest woman on that tribe. If you looked at how she performed
It'd probably be
in the
Sierra.
immunity challenge, it was Katie or Sierra for sure. It was a big fu to Jervis. It was like, you know what? She's out. They wanted him to swap places with her because that's one of the key twists of this season, which never was acted out, and it's extremely disappointing that it never happened. Is
Well,
like,
technically, it happened at the beginning with Rupert,
oh, I'm
but
sorry, no, you are correct. You are correct. Um, but it just didn't happen in the
we're
dual
good with
set.
Rupert, so
Yeah, we're good with Rupert. I do think it's kind of iconic. Laura played the game and she made it as far as she did, and we got a tribal council that was just all votes for Laura. Laura B,
yeah,
Laura M, which is kind of iconic. Um, but I think that their strategy to get Jervis out was to make him see that his niece is on Redemption Island and has to compete to stay in the game, and maybe he would swap with her to give her a chance to play Survivor, and then maybe he would go home through Redemption Island quicker. So maybe that was part of the strategy. Maybe I'm wrong, but they just wanted to say "f you."
yeah, and you see that once again. You see that with the Rachel vote. I think the next round, um, and as the game progresses, it's like, yeah, this is a mechanic that we could potentially take advantage of. It doesn't, like you said, the beginning of the game, we have Rupert, and in his swan song. Thank God. He just, hey, Laura, let's switch spots. I'll go to Redemption Island and I'm gonna win and I'm gonna come back. And it's like, no, you're not. Um, Honestly, the Rupert fatigue this time around never really kicked in. It usually kicks in right after All Stars. This time around, I really appreciated him in Heroes versus Villains because he is the only person that listens to Sandra. And here, he doesn't outstay his welcome, and all he does is pout on Redemption Island for 2 episodes or an episode, and then he's gone. Laura, on the other hand, I think her iconic moment is telling Venus that he's going home, and the women at the camp just like, all right, well, we're just gonna get rid of you then, because that's crazy. We don't really have to talk about Laura B too much, but I do. I tweeted this out earlier, and it's not really tongue in cheek. I think it's actually like legitimate, at least in my head. This is the hottest cast in Survivor history, and I think it's because of, for me, Monica, Laura M, Tina, even Tina at this age, yeah, Tina 3.0, Katie Collins, Sierra, Marissa, Rachel. Just
This is such a hot take. This is such a hot take, I have to say. It is hilarious.
But you brought this up earlier about Candace, killing it on Redemption Island. Laura and Tina, once Candace is
Holy
gone, Laura
crap.
and Tina just run roughshot on everyone
I
that comes through.
cannot believe it. Holy crap.
And
Oh,
it's to the point where it looks like Laura is going to come back for a second time, pull an Ozzy, and come back again. And I do feel like if Laura comes back, there is obviously, once again, this is all fantasy, but like she could win the challenge and switch up things. Wins. And Sierra even says Tina was probably the least person that I really wanted to see back, but like I'm going to work with her because we're on the bottom of a tribe of 5. And Tina makes it to Final Four. And in that moment, I remember the first time watching it, it's like, oh my God, like we're going to get another 2-time winner so soon after Heroes versus Villains. Because I thought it was just building up to Tina, like, or conquering this all powerful alliance. She goes out, she has her vote out confessional where she was like, I thought I was going to tie Sandra with 2 wins or whatever. I really liked Tina 3.0 mainly because of how they did her so dirty in All Stars and voted her out first. And she still had it. You know, she she claims that the game was a lot different this time around. And yes, as far as like idols and stuff, yeah, that's true. But like the main part of the game is still the same, and I do feel like she was still able to find her footing in different situations. What did you think about Tina 3.0?
God, I loved Tina 3.0. I loved her 3.0 more than 2.0 and 1.0. It was so exciting to see Tina play so extremely strategic because in the early era of Survivor, especially Australian Outback, we didn't see so much strategy. Tina just stuck to her guns, stuck with Keith and Colby right to the end. She won. I think a lot of bitterness toward Colby. Um, this time we see her making move after move, social connections, and we actually see her do really well in uh, tribal challenges and physical challenges and individual challenges. I don't think she ever got first place in any of the duels until the very last one.
The last one.
Laura got all the first places, even I think most of them before the merge. Um, so it was so cool to see Tina back, and then this time with her daughter. Because if you remember in Australian Outback,
She was the family. They were on camera, and she was a little
yes,
girl. Yeah,
Katie's a little girl, and it was like a full circle Tina Wesson moment. Um, and it was just great to. It was like the most unexpected person I thought to come back too. I was thinking, okay, Vetus is on redemption. He's gonna come back. Okay, maybe Aris, maybe Laura will do it. Caden, Caleb. There's so many possibilities, but Tina did it. And I think one of the highlighted big moments of the season too is that Tina versus Katie in the redemption. She looks to Katie when she's about to
oh my
open the
god, that
door.
was okay. That one actually got me.
Yeah,
That
that was she's like, "Are you sure?" And she's like, "Mom, just go through." And it was like, you know what? She could have let Katie just win that challenge and possibly get back in the game and could have won. But Katie knew in that moment, like, no, I think my mom has a better shot than me. She did do better in this challenge, so you should just take it. So it was like this really interesting moment that, fed into the season of Blood versus Water to have a mom beat her daughter in redemption, not because, she was given it, but because she actually earned it.
yeah, and there are a lot of moments this season where I'm like, I know what you're trying to do, Survivor, and you're not going to get me. You're not going to get me, Survivor. That moment, the moment, like you said, Sierra and Laura on the beach. Um, the first time that Tyson cries, for some reason, that always gets me because it's like, wow, a real human being. Um, and what was the last? Oh, everything like Monica's final speech. Like it really, I felt so bad for her because you can tell she put a lot into this, and the fact that she keeps saying, "I don't want to be known as Brad's wife." It's like I wanted to do this for Monica. I'm like, you know what? I get that. I mean, I'm not in your shoes or whatever, but like I relate to that so much. I probably still not vote for you, but like I get it. And she felt like Hayden was attacking her, and like Hayden wasn't. Hayden actually was just like, who, we just want to know, these things. I swear, and I don't feel like Laura was attacking her, but I feel like in that moment, Monica just, everything's kind of came out, and I get it. And Brad really does stand up for her at the reunion, which I always appreciate. Question: the daughters didn't switch when Tina and Laura Moret were respectively voted out. Had Katie or Sierra been on Redemption Island, what do you think Tina and Laura would have done? I think I want to say they would have stayed. I don't think anyone switches outside of Rupert. Like, there's nobody else that would do it outside of Rupert.
You know what? I think in Laura and Sierra's case, it might be different. So that's the only one I would disagree. I think that Laura would switch for Sierra if Sierra like begged her or like was crying and just said please. Maybe even I don't know, maybe Tina would have done it too. It just depends on the moment. I guess
Yeah,
it's a good point. Maybe they wouldn't have, but something I think people don't realize is that they don't show it in the edit, but they ask every single Jeff had asked every single redemption duel, do you want to switch? The answer was always no, except in the case with Rupert. So my thought was always Laura is so great at these challenges, right? Why wouldn't Laura switch with Sierra at one point and like win immunity and help like take out a big threat in the game, and then at the next redemption switch back with Sierra. You know, it's a
That's a
it's a
big
tough
brain move. That is a
it's
big brain move.
it's a
That is,
possibility.
yeah. I mean, that is. I've never thought about that, and that would be a great like that. That is insane. Yeah, that's very smart. Um, but even in that situation, they wouldn't be able to interact though, so they don't know what they're coming into at that point.
Unless they let
And
it all out in the arena.
in the arena, yeah, that's fair. Um, and so as the season, we haven't really touched on Tyson yet, and we're going to get to Tyson. Um, the rest of this cast, we have oh my god, what is her name? Kat. We have Kat's iconic. No one wants to date someone that didn't make the merge, which is so great. It's so great. As someone that went out pre-merge during Survivor New York, I get it. It sucks, but other folks that we had here, Aris and Vetus. So we had two winners come back this season, and I'm thankful with the win. I'm thankful that we got two winners that are very low key, that are not larger than life personalities, because I do feel like they probably would go a lot earlier. I think they picked the right winners or the right type of winner for this season. But we get Aris and Vetus, and their storyline is very big in the pre-merge. Just that the brother rivalry, and because Vetus had gone to jail and Aris was an all-star athlete and all that, and they have the moment where they're doing the sumo wrestling, and Vetus
Oh my
tricks them.
god, that was so good. That whole
Um,
challenge was so good.
yeah, well, it was just so emotional. It was so emotional for all of them. I think it's the one where Tyson messes up his shoulder. Um,
Yep.
Jeff, all season, he just keeps pushing. He has to keep pushing, trying to get these tears. He's doing so he can get people to cry. He's like, oh man, Aris and Vetus, what is it like as you're ready to fight each other? How does it feel? Then you guys used to hate each other. It's like, well, yeah, but like, it's clear that we don't now. We're playing in a game together, but sure, let's just air out all of this. Um, I liked Ars and Vetus. I think that I understand why Vetus was brought back a second time, because I do feel like a lot of his moments this season, a lot of his confessionals this season, were very fun. Aris, I think like I said, he was the right type of winner to bring back this time around. If you wanted winners to come back, Aris would be for this season. Any thoughts on that duo before we move on?
Only thought is that, you know, the way you describe the two winners there, it makes me realize that when Winners at War was deciding who to choose to come back, because they both played in this game, I think that's one of the determining factor that they weren't asked for the next time, because they did get another shot like kind of recently. And I never had thought about that before, because I wondered why Tina wasn't there, and I wondered why ours wasn't there.
I
Do you feel the
understood
same way?
Oh, I understood the RS one. For Winners at War, I feel like because th- there are two men's winners on Winners at War that I was like, all right, we really didn't need that. But I wouldn't replace either one of them with RS. On the women's end, there are probably 2 to 3 women's winners that were there. It's like, oh, we really didn't need that. And I would replace one of them with Tina.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So RS for me has always just been, I won't say boring because that's mean. But ours has always been whatever this is, whatever this word that I'm trying to say is. That's what ours is.
Well, Jeff would say ours is born only because he is the biggest Terry Dietz fan. Like,
Yeah,
Jeff is obsessed with Terry, and it's very obvious. So anybody who beats Terry is, you know,
persona
not
non grata.
great, not great in Jeff's book.
If Rupert had not switched with Laura, would he have been seen as a selfish person? Since Rupert had already played 3 times, he may have lost his hero status. I don't think so. I, Also, I don't think there's ever a world where Rupert doesn't switch. I can't even comprehend Rupert not switching in this season, just because every time Rupert plays, he has to embrace the theme of the season. He's a pirate in Pearl Islands. He's an all-star, whatever that means. Heroes versus villains. He's very, very like, oh, the villains, the villains, the villains, and we're heroes and they're villains. It's like, once again, you do realize these are not real villains, right? They're not tying Laura up to a the train tracks or whatever. Like this is just fake. Blood versus water. I feel like soon as Jeff says you can switch, Rupert immediately starts walking. He's like, okay, wait a minute, because you don't know what I'm going to say. And Rupert's like, I don't give a shit. There's no way that Rupert doesn't switch. And if he doesn't, in a crazy world where he does not switch with Laura, I don't think he loses his hero status, because he doesn't last long enough this season anyway. And, yeah, the game could have been different if he stayed in the game, but let's say he still gets voted out early. It's not going to, Laura probably loses the first Redemption Island thing anyway, because Candace was killing everyone.
My hot take is that Laura would have been for sure the first person voted out, but Rupert probably would have made it to the merge or deeper into the game, just because every time he's ever played, he's gotten pretty far.
Pretty far, yeah.
But like you said, there was no way he wasn't going to switch. Laura has lived her whole life with Rupert, watching him play 3 times. It was like he was saying, like, she needs this experience. But also keep in mind, him switching with her, he knew she was going to go to a tribe of all former Survivor players who have knowledge of this game, who are also good at these challenges, and they've proven that by winning 4 or 5 immunity challenges in a row. So he knew what he was doing.
Yeah. And if Rupert had stayed, I feel like Tyson would have just tried to paint the target on him like he did put it on Aris eventually, which leads us to Tyson. I've said this on one of these. I think it might have been the Token Chains one, where it's like, watching Blood versus Water, I caught on. This is the only time I've ever been able to do this. I caught on very early that Tyson was winning, and it was because he was portrayed differently than the first 2 times he played. Primarily when he is shown crying and having other emotions besides just being a smartass. It's like, oh, that's weird. Why are we not getting, like, we're still getting fun Tyson moments, but we're getting a lot more of an even edit as far as different emotions. And we're also, we're getting a lot of narration from him. And it was like, okay, well, yeah, Tyson's winning. And as the season progressed, it's like, yeah, Tyson's winning. And when he does win, it still feels good to see, because he is a character that I feel like had a lot of growth through 3 seasons. We have people like James that are the exact same through 3 seasons. I feel like Tyson starts as the fun dick in Token Genes, depending on how you're watching it. You go to Heroes versus Villains, where he votes himself off without, and has a horrible edit. And then we get Tyson 3.0, where, he messes up his shoulder early, and he's still able to dominate in challenges, even though he's kind of, he's still trying to milk it by saying, oh yeah, I'm still hurt, but like, I can compete in challenges. That he set himself up very well with the alliance that he was in. Things like trying to paint Aris as the leader very early on, I think that works. The fact that he is so good with Monica, even though everyone is looking at Monica as a crazy person, for lack of a better phrase. The fact that he's with Jervis, who, once again, according to the edit, is more of the antagonist of the duo. I think Tyson's game this season, the fact that Monica and Jervis both said that he deserved to win when asked, who would you pick between the other finalists and Tyson? They both said him. I think that is a big testament to how he did this season. And I was really happy. By the time I got to Blood vs. Water, I was like, wow, I think I actually like this guy that I hated in Token Genes. Tyson's story, Token Genes to now. We won't talk about Winners at War. Where do you fall?
I didn't care for him in Heroes vs. Villains. His edit was kind of weird, and that whole tribal council where he left was just weird. Tokens, he's funny. I mean, everyone enjoyed him in Tokens. He's the goofy, like, he really is a goofy villain. Blood versus Water, I don't know. I'm not somebody that loves like a very dominant, obvious winner type like Boston Robin Redemption Island. And I didn't catch on that he was going to win the way that you did, but in the editing during the merge, it was just very impossible to see any route that didn't lead to Tyson at least being in the top. And I felt like there was almost nobody that could beat him in the end through speech or through performance so much. Maybe Sierra, maybe
Maybe
Tina,
Tina. Yeah.
be a very, very little chance of that. Um, but I think the biggest thing that is so interesting is that him, Monica, and Jervis all lost their loved ones very early on. And what that does, it turns the game into just Survivor for them. It's not blood versus water anymore. That element is gone for them. They are just playing the
They're
game that
free.
they know, which is Survivor. And Tyson got to do that after day 5 or 6. Jervis got to do that like day 3. Monica got to do that like day 9. So they got to spend 30 something days just playing the game that they know and focusing full on without having to worry about these loved ones in the game. And I think that sort of blinded a lot of people into playing into their full potential. And that's why I think Tyson won. Because if Rachel was there, that would have led into something else that would have changed a lot. Maybe it would be Rachel, Jervis, and Tyson in the final 3, not Monica or this or that. But I think that was helpful.
Yeah, it's they're now free to do whatever they want. They don't have to worry about that. And I think that's what Sierra is talking about during the merge, where Laura comes back of like, this is the worst possible scenario. Because I do feel like Sierra had gotten to the point where she was able to do it by herself. She doesn't need mom back, and now mom back, and they they come back and she takes her down the beach and she was like, here's the wrinkle to all of this. Like, I'm in an alliance and I'm all set up. Here's the wrinkle. It's you. You're the wrinkle on this. You don't need to be here. And I think that adds that's where the fun of this season is comes from, is the fact that there is this extra element to the game that really starts to wear on some folks, and some folks use it to their advantage by losing the person they're close to. I mean, hell, Natalie Anderson wins San Juan del Sur, and her loved one gets voted out first, and she becomes really close with Jeremy, and her entire revenge arc and the merge has nothing to do with Nadia. It has everything to do with Jeremy. She's trying to get revenge for Jeremy at that point, as someone just in the game that she met. I can't wait for San Juan Dessert. It's so fun. It's like a bad blood versus water, but like in a fun way. Um, Overall, and I think this is, I always, like I said, I called it my comfort season, and it really is. I can watch this season at any point, and I just like it. It's so much. It's not too overly strategic to the point where it's like, okay, like, cool, another blind side. There's a lot of social stuff that goes on. The challenges are fun. I think the cast from top to bottom, even so, like the Colton quit comes off of, and I tweeted this out earlier. There's a very real moment for me where Colton is sitting at camp. I think episode 1. He's talking about how he had to do a lot of whatever after One World, where he had to learn a lot of things about himself, and he talks about being gay and growing up in the South, and how that impacted him, and all of that. And I thought it was a really wholesome moment, especially because Laura was one of the people hugging him, and it's like, oh, Laura, you don't buy into this, so why are you doing it? But it was really wholesome moment, and I did enjoy that about Colton this season, was that a very real moment. And even him looking at the tribe while they're giving each other massages is like, yeah, I can see how you'd be a little aggravated by that. It's like we're too kumbaya right now. But losing Colton, I feel like really helped Caleb, and I know we've already talked about it, because Caleb became such a he didn't have to worry about what was going to happen with it. At this point. I am by myself, and him and Hayden. Oh my goodness, how do people not talk about that duo? Um, we have gotten okay. So Tyson, we won't count Titans. Tyson, we've gotten Sierra back. We've gotten Sierra back. We've gotten. I know there's
Vetus.
Vetus.
I think that's it.
Is it Sierra and
Oh, Brad
Vetus
Culpepper
and Brad Culpepper? Oh, and is that it?
and I mean Tyson comes back.
Yeah, yeah. So it's I think it's just Sierra Vetus and Brad Culpepper. If we're wrong, just correct me in the comments. But were those the right three? One, two. Should there have been other people from this cast brought back for another go around?
That's a good question. Trying to
Because
think
for
if there's
me,
anything good. Go ahead. You go first.
Hayden and Caleb. I don't know when he passed in relation to second chances, but if he, I don't think he had passed
He
much in
passed
second chances.
before. No, he passed before
He
that.
did. Oh wow, okay. Um, Caleb was someone that I really enjoyed here, and Hayden, the fact that he was able to do this well. Once again, never watched his Big Brother season, but the fact that he was able to transition to yes, it's this. He says it's the same thing, but the games are still different enough that you do have to change certain things that you do, in this environment. And I do think that he was able to pick up on the game fairly fast. So for me, yeah, Hayden and Caleb would have been the two that I would have wanted to see outside of Sierra and who am I forgetting again?
Brad
Sierra,
Culpepper,
Sierra, Brad, and who was the third?
Vetus.
And Vetus. Yeah, I understood Vetus. I understood Sierra. I understood Brad, and I also understood how he didn't win on the second chances ballot. So when he comes back for game changers, it's like, okay, cool. He's not really a game changer, but like Jeff loves him, so fine, put him on the cast. And I do think he does a lot better there.
I think the only one I could say would be Marissa, just because I mean on the second chance ballot you had people like Michaela, which, there was
Natalie,
just there was just some very random people involved. So why not Marissa? She's a first boot. She is a niece of a Survivor legend. She did not have a fair shake in the game, but she had a very memorable 3 episodes while there. So I think she should have had a chance on the ballot. Would she have gotten the votes? Probably not, but I would have liked to see her have an actual Survivor experience that wasn't like jaded because of something her uncle did.
yeah, I mean, "fuck you, Brad Culpepper" is an iconic line. That
Yep.
sometimes people say Candace said it. It is Marissa that says it. Candace is the one that flips him off. Still, for 50, anyone from this season that you are dying to see play again in 50.
I was thinking you were going to ask me this question before I got on. So I have a theory that we might see Jervis back. Here is the reason. Season 50 is a celebration of Survivor as a whole. Jeff said that it's open to the entirety of the series, right? Jervis is going to be, I looked this up, he's going to be 55 next year when Survivor 50 films. He is the only person from season 1 that is probably mentally and physically able to play this game again. Kelly Wigglesworth is debatable. Jenna maybe is debatable. There is nobody else that would do it or that would be physically and mentally capable of doing it. He did very well in um, this season. Now he knows that he can play this game very well strategically, physically. He's still kind of like within the community as
Yeah,
well. Um, I don't. If they ask him, I don't see a reason for him to really say no. at this point. With Survivor being as big as it is, and I think he has like a business somewhere in Pennsylvania. I forget what it is, but it's a great promotional thing for him. I think we could see Jervis. I think it makes sense to have somebody from the first season back to celebrate 50 seasons. What do you
Yeah,
think?
Jervis. I feel like Jervis, more than anyone else this season, like we've gotten Tyson 4 times at this point. I really hope they don't have winners on 50. But so as much as I like Tyson, I don't need him back for 50. Um, Brad Culpepper, I don't need a Brad Culpepper 3.0. Hayden, no. Um, Aris, no. Vetus, no. I think that Jervis, because of everything you just said, not knowing all of that, but like if they needed season one representation, and I do feel like for 50, they are going to at least want season 1 and 2 representation. And if that is the case, Jervis is the person because you're not going to find Greg wherever he is. You're not going to find, Colleen wherever she is. Like you mentioned Jenna Lewis, and I'm not really pining for a Jenna 3.0, but like fine. And everyone else is just too old because it happened 25-ish years ago. Like
Literally.
and a 55-year-old Jervis is still, probably still not going to be able to swim. It's not like he's
I think he'll be able
13
to
years.
swim.
Yeah, 13 years have passed and he still can't swim here. So, and Jeff even says, "Oh, Jervis known for like being a horrible swimmer." It's like, dude, maybe he's changed. He hasn't, but maybe. Jervis, it's got to be Jervis.
It makes sense, and he's like, it would be so iconic to have somebody from the first season there. If they don't ask him, it's a big mistake. I don't see a reason why he would say no. Um, and he's memorable enough where the audience is like, that's so cool that he's coming back. Someone that was there in 2000 is playing in 2025. Like, come on.
Yeah, that would be insane. It'd be him and Jeff. That's the only two people that were around that long. Um, Overall, I'm gonna give this season 4.5. I almost gave it a 4.75, but no. Do I want to actually do it? I'm gonna give it a 4.5. All right. So with that 4.5, it will fall. Where does it fall? It falls right after Micronesia, right above Tocantins. It's in the number 4 spot right now.
Oh, wow. That's pretty
Um,
good.
I love Blood versus Water. Um, Chris, this is our third time we've had you during this.
Yes.
Thank you so much for taking the time to do this over the last however many weeks. Um, I really appreciated it. I really love your insight into a lot of like today. I've said it multiple times. Wow, I haven't thought about it like that. The Laura Sierra thing really messed with me when he said, "Why don't they just keep switching up?" And I was trying to find a way to poke a hole in it, and the closest I got was, "Oh, well, they won't know the information." But I really enjoyed your insight on the game. When I saw you about a month ago, we sat in your car and talked about the game, and it's like, wow, this is very easy. It flows very well. Um, Once again, where can they find Survivor New York?
Well, thank you for always having me. It's been so much fun doing these with you. But yeah, check out Survivor New York on Instagram and Facebook. It's a live reality game, so you have a chance to play Survivor in my backyard. Well, it's like a campground actually now. But yeah, check it out.
We will be back tomorrow. So, scheduling update. I've got a long day Sunday, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to watch the first 4 episodes of Kageyama tonight, so that I can finish it by midday tomorrow, so that I can watch all of San Juan del Sur before 2 p.m. Sunday, because I'm busy all of Sunday. So I'm going to be really low energy for Worlds Apart. Oh boy. But we'll get to it. So just chat and everyone listening, just keep your eyes peeled on when I'm scheduling the next 2 episodes, because they're going to be at really random times. But thank you all for popping in, and we will see you all on the other side.